What's up, everyone? You got Mind Circus here with you, and welcome to my thoughts and impressions on Mechanist, the new Elite Spec for Engineer from End of Dragons. Hey, before we get started, if you are new to Guild Wars 2, new to the channel, or just haven't done so yet, I am currently farming likes and subscribes in an effort to build the channel, and would greatly appreciate it if you want to hook me up with one of those just below the video. Hey, with that out of the way, you know what? So far, in all the Elite specs that have been delivered for EOD, Mechanist is probably the biggest surprise. At its core, it's super fun, and like I've mentioned before, this is a bit of a shock to me. This actually feels like one of the most complete elites that we've seen from the EOD expansion so far. They've kind of been a mixed bag as they've been delivering them. Some have been more powerful than others, and some have felt, you know, a half-baked or a little undercooked, so to speak, is the best way to put it. And I'm specifically talking about things like Willbender or some of the jankiness that came with Vindicator. But when it comes to Mechanist, wow, this one was really polished and came out of the box feeling done, so to speak. So really happy with this one. In terms of the ones that have actually felt done, this one feels absolutely the most polish. I also felt that Harbinger felt really kind of polished and well put together, like there was a strong vision for it. But then I looked at some of the other ones and they didn't quite feel like they were ready for prime time quite yet. And I think Catalyst is a really good example with all the bugs. So yeah, let's really get into this. I've had a lot of fun with Mechanist for the last day or so. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to just pull up the build and the gear that I've been running on this one to kind of give you guys an idea of what I've been doing. I've played this for about 6 hours so far. I've done my usual kind of open world derping with it. I haven't done anything in competitive, and I don't think I would take a spec like this into competitive. I don't think that this would do very well in World versus World. I don't think that this would do very well in SPVP, but, you know, I'm not a big SPVP player, so, you know, don't quote me on that one. But in terms of World versus World, particularly for Zerging, I can't see this as being a very effective spec. That said, for open world, it's absolutely fantastic. For your general day-to-day purposes, this is a really strong spec. I've run this in two fundamentally different ways. First, we'll take a look at the power setup. And let me just flip over here. The power setup I was running with Marauder's Trinkets, okay, just to give me a little bit more vitality, and I was running with Berserker's Everything Else, okay. Have the Scholar runes in there for the damage. In the Mace, I was running a Superior Sigil of Force for the 5% damage, and I was running a Superior Sigil of Air. Really with this one, you probably want to put a Strength Sigil on there, but I didn't have one. It was one of the things I forgot to put into my bank the night before. So no Strength Sigils. It would make a really big difference. Some Might Generation would really take this into a really nice place. So keep that in mind. But the Force Sigil absolutely did its job in there. And like I say, you know, if you've never run Scholar runes, that's power and ferocity with the extra ferocity on the 6 and the increase in strike damage by 5% while your health is above the 90% threshold. Pretty standard power damage runes that we have on there. You could go all in on the power damage with this. Wouldn't really hurt, you know. It's not a ton of vitality we're getting from these trinkets, but that said, I was really happy with this setup and was really successful with it. The other setup is I tried to go full Condi on this. So this is Vipers with Nightmare runes. The reason why I did Nightmare runes is we've got a couple of different sources of Condi damage. Specifically, we've got some confusion, a lot of burning, and a lot of bleeding. I think if you were to go all in on just the burning with something like Balthazar runes or Flame Legion runes or something like that, you'd really notice a difference in a lower DPS. So what I did was run the Nightmare runes in 100% Vipers gear. In the mace, I have a Sigil of Malice for the 10% condition duration, and a Sigil of Bursting for the 5% condi damage. So these were built in two different ways. We'll go over here first. We'll take a look at the power build. I'm running explosives. I'm running firearms. I'm running Mechanist. In terms of this is all pretty standard stuff. Really quickly, we'll run glass cannon, we'll run blast shield, and we'll run big boomer over here. Under firearms, we're running high caliber, we're running no scope, and we are running modified ammunition. Over in Mechanist, we are running the first one here, Mech Arms High Impact Drivers. This is a might generator. It's a decent little might generator. A big fan of this trait. This was really good. We were running Mech Frame, Variable Mass Distributor, which is a power, precision, and ferocity bonus, and that really is really brought the mech into a decent place in terms of power damage. And we were running the J drive, the Mech Core J drive, which gives us Sky Circus. And by the way, really cool name on it for a power there. Over in the Condi setup, the Condi Robomancer, again running explosives, firearms, and Mechanist, just running different traits in here. Short fuse, blast shield, and shrapnel. Under firearms, I'm running chemical rounds and thermal vision. Here we're getting some condi damage. Here we're getting some expertise, and increase your outgoing condition damage when you inflict burning. You are giving a lot of burning damage the way I had this set up. And incendiary powder. Over here under Mechanist, we're running the top line, which are all pretty much condi traits, and really not too much to say here. So basically we are running single edge cutters, we are running conductive alloys, and we are running a Jade Dynamo. For the setups on the bar here, as you'll see, I'm running Mace Pistol on both of these. When it comes to the pistol, which is really more of a condi weapon, when I was running with the power, I was running that because of the trait that gives you the increased damage, depending on how many conditions are on the enemy. So it was really a nice damage boost. So I'm a big fan of running the pistol offhand on this. On the condi variant of this, you probably want to go with the main hand pistol, to be honest with you. You'd probably get a little bit more damage on that. But that said, the confusion damage was really nice, and it wasn't a deal breaker. On the condition variant here, I'm running 3 signets on both variants. I'm running Rectifier Signet. This is some really good passive sustain. I'll get into this in my feedback a little bit later, but one of the things I really appreciated most about this was some passive sustain that wasn't tied to a specific damage type. If you take a look at a good example being Ranger, where you need to be doing poison damage for your sustain, or if you look at Thief and you need to be critting for your passive sustain, lots of different ways to do that. So a lot of really cool options that you get just from these traits. I'm a big fan. Also running here one more signet at the very least. You've got 2 options here on the condi damage. I was using the superconducting signet, which is a condi damage increase, and over on the other one I am running the power generator one, so which is the right over here, 4 signet, which is increasing your power damage. So there we have that, and on both I was running the overclock signet because really, the passive reducing the recharge on your signets means that if you need to use your heal signet, it really comes back a fair bit quicker. So that's how we're running that here. Both setups were pretty similar. Additionally, speaking on the power setup, and we'll start with the condi here. On the condi, I was using the elixir gun because the elixir gun's got a little bit of condi clear, and it also has the benefit, if we're running the elixir gun, of the super elixir, which is a little bit more heal that we can splash down on the robot. The robot itself, maybe not the smartest creature in the world, so let's definitely keep that in mind. absolutely fantastic. That's the way I set it up for Condi with one of the turrets. I'm running the flame turret here. When we are talking about the power setup, we'll just flip back over to this really quickly. So with the power, I'm running 2 different turrets, and these were just a nice straight up damage increase without getting too complicated. So very, very cool. Very, very cool. So that's the way I had it set up for both of these builds. They were as effective as the other is the best way to put it. The Condi damage variant a little higher over longer encounters. The power damage obviously a little quicker under the short encounters, but it wasn't kind of the situation where I felt myself hobbled by running one or the other. I thought they were equally as strong, and that really is one of the best pieces of feedback that I have. So with all that said, what did I think about it? Very, very strong. I'll put some footage down here of some of the things that I did on it. Soloing Desert Bounties was probably easier on the power build of this than I've had with any other power build. The sustain that you're getting off the signets is absolutely rocking good news. And I gotta think, if you wanted to take this into, say, a Celestial setup, it would be even better. But I didn't think it was necessary. I ran these in almost pure damage gear in both ways, and absolutely phenomenal. Just phenomenal. So let's get a little into my feedback here. So let's start with the good stuff. The mace is a great, strong, impactful weapon. It's a really great addition to the NG kit, and kind of feels like it should have been there from, on the class since launch. Absolutely fantastic weapon. Straight up natural fit. Loved it. The signets are really nice. There's a strong variety. They have some really good passives. Those without strong passives have really useful actives. They're all really well done. I'm a big fan of the signets, and they really kind of work well with the class. The build options I want to take a couple of seconds and talk about are really strong. One of the problems that I pointed out when I was talking about Virtuoso was you had this line of Condi traits, and when you went, you traded for Condi and you built for Condi, it was awful. And it was a definite second-class citizen to just about anything, really. You didn't want to play it for Condi. The traits were unimpactful, and running it in Condi was no good. Sharp contrast on the Mechanist. Running for both Condi or Power were absolutely viable and fun and strong. So I want to kind of really point that out, that one of the things I appreciated most about this, and it's something that we haven't seen a lot of in a lot of the other Elite specs that have come out for End of Dragons in this beta, is that both options were really strong. I didn't go and take it to a next level and try and do some boon support or anything. I didn't put it in Celestial because I didn't feel like the sustain was needed from the other gear. So absolutely fantastic. Big fan of that in itself. So beyond that, the passive sustain I mentioned earlier was amazing, and I loved the fact that it was agnostic of the damage that you were doing. So those are the really big ones. Take a look at what may be some of the more constructive feedback that I have to offer. Number one, this is a pet spec. Its simplicity is its downfall. It's never going to be good in World versus World. It's not really going to be great in SPVP, but you can talk to somebody with a little bit more SPVP experience or an SPVP enjoyer. So really, the simplicity can be a bit of its downfall. You set the pet on the boss and you just kind of upkeep it. It's a little more engaging than the brain dead longbow ranger pet style, but not by much. The next thing is the pet AI is awful. It's just going to stand there and eat just about every AoE that a boss gives it and do nothing to mitigate it. You don't have a way to move the bot around. And really, that is probably the number one biggest problem with it. Let's call that the second biggest problem. The biggest actual problem with the spec is that when the pet dies, you're half an engineer. And really it's that simple. When that pet dies, you are so badly hobbled on this spec. And it's not like Ranger, where when the pet dies, you can go ahead and just, swap pets. It's not like a Necromancer with the Necromancer summons, which can bring those back relatively quickly in the middle of combat. There's a good 90-second cooldown on the bot after it dies. And for that 90 seconds, part of the trade-off of the class mechanic here is that we're losing our tool belt skills, and we just lose so much when the pet dies that 90 seconds is absolutely punishing. So I don't know if the vision of the spec is for the developers. I mean, their vision for the spec is to really hobble us that badly and make us invest in some kind of sustain for the pet. But it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And the other thing is, a few of the engineer interactions, and specifically I'll talk about elixirs, are absolutely useless on this spec. There's no value in giving myself quickness with a elixir when my pet's not getting it. So, again, there's some interactions there that maybe could use some work. I don't know. It really kind of depends on what the actual developer intent behind this was. So let's keep that in mind. When the pet dies, it just feels awful, and it's on a super long cooldown. So there's that. I mentioned this a little bit. I really missed the tool belt. Really what I wanted to do was take those tool belt elixir skills, splash them down on the ground for my bot. I thought that would have been absolutely fantastic. So, there's a big loss on that one. The tool belt, not having access to the tool belt was really painful, And, if our class mechanic is losing the tool belt skills, let's take a look at the downstates. Let's take a look at when the robot dies. Let's take a look at when the engineer dies and the robot's alive. And I'll get to that in a couple of seconds. But again, losing the tool belt felt really bad. Little feedback list on this spec in general, in case somebody with some stroke is watching or you just want to know what I think about this. Small things, superconducting signet as a lightning combo field didn't quite feel right on a signet that was bolstering my power damage. I thought that would have made a little bit more sense as maybe a poison field or something like that. So the lightning field, while I understood it thematically kind of matched, I don't feel that it was a good match in terms of its actual use. The rename for the pets was not sticking for me. Whenever I zoned, my rename wasn't working, and the rename was truncating the last letter on every attempt I gave to rename my bot. So I would have liked if that would have worked. I get that it wasn't a big deal, but really I wanted to call it like the Brobot 9000 or something like that, and I wasn't able to. And that was a little thing that I'm hoping will get worked out. And also to the point, I would have been nice to be able to put numbers into the pet rename. Pet customization would be really nice, and it could be as simple as just letting me dye the green on it into a different color. I get that there's a theme going on with this, but I think it's more important for the developers to kind of give us ways to self-express, etc., particularly when we're talking about something like this. It's not like we have a ranger pet where we've got dozens of different choices to meaningfully kind of express customization, etc. So a little bit of visual customization would be good. In a perfect world, I'm going out and I'm earning new skins for this thing. I'm getting like the Asura Golem skin, and I'm getting the Jade skin, or I'm getting a giant polar bear or something, if you know what I mean. I think it would be really, really good for them to kind of dip into the ability to customize the visuals on the mech. I think it would be a really, really nice step on it. As I mentioned, the spec becomes absolutely awful when the bot dies. I've kind of covered on that. I'd also really like the ability to move that bot around. A good example is I'm sitting there doing some desert bounties, and whenever a polluter came up or scorcher came up, the bot just fried. And when the bot fries, feels bad, man. Hey, why not let the mech revive us like Ranger downstate? I think that that would be absolutely fantastic, and really a nod towards, the whole multi-classing thing that these elite specs are really going for. If this is, NG slash Ranger, then let's let the pet, give me the Ranger downstate. I think that that would be a really nice little touch, and I would have appreciated that. And finally, super small, but the cooldowns on the F skills are really hard to read on this one. It's just got to do with the color of the icons, maybe some kind of differentiation, and it just may be as small as going ahead and changing the contrast values on those icon graphics. But I found them really hard to read when they were on or off cooldown, so I would really kind of appreciate a little bit of thought and look at that. But there we got it. That's my feedback on Mechanist to this point. Really happy with it. Hey, those of you who are watching the video, let me know what you think down in the comments down below the video. Love to hear what you did with it. If you did something really cool, I'd love to hear your build options on it. If you've just got some complaints about it, you know what? Put them down in the comments. Let's talk about it. And really, that's about it for this point. I'm going to thank you all very much for watching. I'm going to, remind you to have fun in game and min-max your real life. And we'll see you again in the mists.